The moment I heard the chime of my phone while the night air still whispered secrets through the open window, I felt a cold, creeping dread that froze every rational thought. I trusted her completely, believing every girl's night out was just a chance to unwind with friends. But that night, something in the tone of her text, a casual "be there in 30, don't wait up," set off alarms I couldn't ignore. I grabbed my keys and stepped out into the darkness, determined to follow her trail. In that electric moment, I vowed I wouldn't let her lies fester any longer. I was about to catch her in the act, and nothing could stop me. That I still remember the days when our relationship felt secure and unassailable, a time when trust was the unspoken foundation of every conversation and every shared secret. We had built our life together slowly, with quiet mornings over coffee, spontaneous weekend adventures, and heartfelt talks that stretched into the early hours. I believed that when she said she was going out with the girls, it was just that, a harmless escape with close friends to laugh, gossip, and relax after a long week. I wanted to believe that everything was as it should be, that her girls' night out was simply her way of connecting with friends. But in recent months, subtle signs began to appear. Her phone would be shushed as soon as I walked in, her smile would flicker with hesitation when I asked about her plans, and there was an unexplained tension in her eyes that I couldn't quite place. At first, I tried to ignore these little hints, convincing myself I was reading too much into innocent behavior. I told myself that every relationship has its mysteries, that sometimes people just need a little space. But then came that one fateful text, so casually sent yet laden with a tone that set off every alarm bell in my head. I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't being entirely honest. That night, driven by a mix of desperation, hurt, and the need to reclaim my dignity, I decided to follow her. I didn't want to confront her without proof. I needed to see it for myself, to know exactly what kind of betrayal had been unfolding in my absence. That it started simply. I waited outside our apartment building until she left, and then I trailed her car from a distance. I recall the uneasy thud of my heart as her car turned onto a street I didn't recognize, leading toward a part of town I had never seen her frequent. I followed, hidden in the dark, as she parked in front of a nondescript building with a faded sign that read Club Amour. My mind spun with confusion. Was this the spot for a casual girls' night out? The building looked more like a nightclub with dim, pulsing lights and a long line of people waiting to get in. I hesitated for only a moment before deciding that I needed to see it for myself. I parked a few blocks away and waited, the minutes stretching into what felt like hours. Eventually I saw her, Lisa, the woman I had loved for nearly 10 years, emerge from the building, laughing with someone I couldn't see clearly in the dark. The sight twisted a knife in my chest. I watched as she slid into a waiting car, her hand lingering on the steering wheel as if reluctant to leave. My mind raced. What was happening? Who was she with? Every secret I'd noticed before converged into one brutal reality. She was lying to me, and I had followed her into the heart of her deception. The next few hours passed in a daze. I returned home, my mind a chaotic swirl of images, each one more painful than the last. I sat in silence, my eyes staring blankly at the walls, replaying that moment over and over, the betrayal echoing in every corner of my mind. I wondered how I had allowed the trust between us to be eroded by repeated half-truths and subtle lies. My nights became restless, filled with dreams of that club, that shadowed figure I'd seen, and the overwhelming ache of knowing that the woman I adored had built a secret life behind my back. In the days that followed, I wrestled with a mix of emotions: heartbreak, anger, disbelief, and a crushing sadness. I tried to confront her gently, asking if something was wrong, if she needed more time with her friends, but she always brushed it off with a half-smile and a dismissive, "It's just a girl's night out, nothing to worry about." I wanted to believe her, to cling to the memories of our once-trusted love, but the evidence gnawed at me relentlessly. The unease turned into a painful certainty that she was cheating. And as I sat alone at night, with nothing but the echo of my own thoughts for company, I resolved that I would not let her deceit continue to destroy what little trust one had left. I began to gather evidence in secret, combing through her phone when she thought I was asleep, saving screenshots of text messages that hinted at clandestine meetings and late-night rendezvous at that club. Every screenshot was a painful reminder of the lies she had told, each one chipping away at the foundation of our relationship. I documented every detail meticulously: the time she left, the location she headed to, even the names and faces in her messages. I felt like I was watching my life unravel, piece by piece, but I also felt a grim determination to know the truth. One particularly agonizing evening, I found myself scrolling through her private messages once more, each one confirming what I had suspected for so long. I saw the photos, selfies of her laughing with a group of friends at the club, images of intimate dinners with someone who wasn't me, and even a message that read, "Tonight is the best night yet, can't wait to see you." The exclamation point at the end of that message was like a final, screaming punctuation to my despair. I felt tears streaming down my face as I realized that she had been living a double life, that our home had been a house built on lies. With the evidence in hand, I confronted her one quiet night when the house was empty except for the echo of our past laughter. I asked her, in a voice heavy with sorrow, "How long have you been lying to me?" Her eyes filled with a mixture of shock and guilt, and for a moment, I saw the woman I once loved flicker behind the mask of deceit. She mumbled vague excuses, about how it was just a harmless night out, how her friends needed her support, how nothing was as it seemed. But the truth was etched in every screenshot, every timestamp, every whispered conversation captured in pixels. I realized then that the trust we had built, the love we once shared, was irreparably broken. That I spent several sleepless nights after that confrontation, grappling with the raw, unfiltered pain of betrayal. I wandered the empty corridors of our home, feeling the weight of loneliness and regret, questioning every memory we had ever shared. I had to decide whether to fight for what was left or to walk away and reclaim my life from the ashes of deceit. In the depths of my despair, I found a glimmer of resolve. I realized that I deserved a life built on honesty, on mutual respect. A life where I was not left in the dark by the person I trusted the most. I decided that I would leave, that I would walk away from a love that had become a tangled web of lies and secrets. The decision was agonizing. I had envisioned a future with her, a future of shared dreams and quiet mornings, of laughter and whispered promises. But that future was nothing more than an illusion, shattered by the truth of her betrayal. I packed a small bag with the essentials, clothes, a few cherished mementos, my journal filled with the painful memories of our happier times, and quietly left one morning before she awoke. I drove away in silence, every mile a painful reminder of the love I had lost, every red light a pause in my heart's slow, measured march toward freedom. That I end the following weeks, I immersed myself in the process of healing. I met with a trusted friend who had always been there for me, someone who listened without judgment as I recounted the long, agonizing journey of betrayal and self-discovery. I began to attend therapy sessions, where I slowly learned to untangle the web of emotions, anger, grief, self-doubt, that had been spun around me. Each session was a small step toward reclaiming my self-worth, a reminder that I was not defined by her lies or by the betrayal I had endured. I began to see that sometimes, the hardest part of healing is not the loss itself, but the journey to find yourself again amid the ruins. As I navigated the early stages of my new life, I took comfort in small routines that helped ground me. I started jogging in the cool mornings, letting the rhythm of my footsteps erase the heavy echoes of betrayal. I returned to old hobbies, reading, painting, even writing letters I never intended to send, that allowed me to express the tumultuous emotions that still roiled beneath the surface. Slowly, I began to rediscover the person I had once been, a person who deserved honesty and a love untainted by secrets. My days became a mixture of bittersweet memories and hopeful anticipation, each moment a testament to my resilience. Meanwhile, the fallout of her betrayal rippled through our small circle of friends and family. Some whispered in disbelief at the news, while others offered me sympathetic glances, knowing that I had been profoundly hurt. I learned that betrayal is not something that can be hidden forever, that the truth has a way of surfacing, no matter how carefully it is concealed. The secret messages, the hidden Instagram account, and the countless hours spent piecing together the truth became the catalyst for my transformation. I began to see that I could no longer live in a state of quiet suffering, that I had to reclaim my life, piece by piece, from the rubble of our shattered love. In time, I finalized the decision to leave. I met with a divorce attorney, showed her every piece of evidence I had painstakingly gathered, and began the legal process that would sever the ties of a marriage built on deceit. The courtroom sessions were painful, each one forcing me to relive the betrayal in excruciating detail. But with every document signed and every ruling handed down in my favor, I felt a growing sense of liberation. I was no longer trapped by the weight of her lies. I was free to build a future that was wholly my own. After the divorce was finalized, I moved into a small apartment not far from where our home once stood. The space was modest, but it felt like a blank canvas upon which I could paint a new life, a life defined by truth, self-respect, and the hope that had slowly begun to resurface amid the darkness. I spent hours rearranging the furniture, choosing colors that lifted my spirits, and adding personal touches that reminded me of who I was beyond the betrayal. Every step of the way, I vowed never to let anyone diminish my worth again. I also found solace in reconnecting with friends I had long neglected. Their support, their understanding, and their unwavering belief in my strength became the pillars upon which I rebuilt my self-esteem. I laughed again, sometimes with a bittersweet edge, but always with the knowledge that I was moving forward. I started to attend social gatherings, not to dwell on the past, but to celebrate the future. Each new connection, each smile shared with someone who truly cared, reminded me that life could still be beautiful. Even after the deepest wounds, there were nights when the memories of that fateful day would come unbidden. A flash of the club where I first followed her, the silence of the phone that confirmed my worst suspicions, the look of guilt in her eyes when I finally confronted her with the evidence. In those moments, I allowed myself to grieve for the love I had lost, for the future that had been ripped away by betrayal. I would sit by the window in the quiet hours before dawn, watching as the city slowly woke, and I'd let the tears flow, each one a testament to the pain and the strength of my journey. But gradually, those memories began to lose their sting, replaced by the steady assurance that I was now the author of my own destiny. That I began to write. A journal turned memoir, a cathartic exercise that allowed me to process every emotion, every regret, every glimmer of hope that had emerged from the ruins. Writing became my therapy, a way to honor the past while forging a path to a future where trust was earned and love was never taken for granted. My words, raw and unfiltered, captured the essence of my transformation, from the moment I discovered the secret, to the night I confronted her, to the long, painful process of reclaiming my life. Each chapter was a reminder that while the scars of betrayal might never fully fade, they could also serve as symbols of resilience and rebirth. Now, as I sit in the quiet of my new home, a year after that life-changing discovery, I feel a profound sense of peace. The house I once shared with a woman who lied about girls' night out is now behind me, a relic of a past that taught me to value my own truth above all else. I have built a life that is unburdened by secrets, that is grounded in honesty, respect, and the unwavering belief that I deserve to be cherished for who I truly am. I no longer let the pain of betrayal dictate my future. Instead, I use it as a reminder of my strength, my capacity to overcome even the deepest wounds. As I look out the window at the quiet street below, where the familiar silhouettes of old neighbors remind me of a life that once was, I smile softly. I know that the journey ahead may still be fraught with moments of sorrow and the occasional pang of regret, but I am no longer defined by that painful night. I have reclaimed my identity, my dignity, and my future. I learned that sometimes the hardest choices, the quiet packing of your things and the courageous step of walking away, are the ones that lead you to a life of true freedom and self-respect. That is my story, a story of heartbreak, betrayal, and ultimately, the fierce determination to reclaim my life from the lies of someone who thought I'd never leave. It is a story of painful truth and the transformative power of honesty. And as I continue to build a future that is entirely my own, I carry with me the lessons of the past, the scars that remind me of the journey I've endured, and the hope that guides me toward a brighter, more authentic tomorrow.